Nikon has a history of making great 135mm lenses, but in 1990 they really went buck wild with the release of the AFDC Nikon 135mm f2D, the King of Bokeh as the industry would title it, locking it into its status as the guest of this episode of Legends of Nikon. This is a series where we take a walk down memory lane and pay our respects to epic glass of old. Let us begin. First things first, defocus image control is labeled on the lens, and that's kind of a funky term. Out of focus control is a pretty idiot-proof term, so OFC, but in hindsight nowadays, that acronym would probably mean only content, and while I do find this lens very sexy, that's, you know what, never mind. I'm starting a new series, Only Lens. Nikon should have called this bokeh control or something. Defocus image control. Think of it like this. With any other lens, your distance to the subject relative to your aperture is going to determine how much of the frame is out of focus. There's no way around it. If you're at 2 meters at f1.4, the amount in front of and behind the subject will be the same amount out of focus. With DC, you have some control of the out of focus areas with an additional ring that has some aperture values on it. So your subject can be sharp and will be that sharp, and the area that is inherently out of focus can be adjusted. Pretty cool, right? Nikon patented that shiz too. They received that patent somewhere in the late 90s. A little extra history before we dive in further. For the first 5 years of this lens's life, it was actually a non-D version, even though this title has D in it. But amazingly, this lens ran for 31 years total from 1990 to 2021. Mirrorless cameras and lenses were already happening, and there was still a need for manufacturing to continue. This lens's optics actually have some really cool things going on that I found while I was researching the lens history for this video that are really too much for today, but the basics are, it's a rear focusing design, low element count, 7 elements and 6 groups, it has 9 curved aperture blades with a body that's 4.7 inches long and 3.1 inches in diameter, or 120 by 79 millimeters, and it weighs 1 pound, 8 ounces, or 818 grams. Something else kind of cool is it has one of those built-in lens hoods, which I think are super nifty. Also, something I miss about those days, it's metal. In pictures, it looks like plastic. It ain't. What you see is a coating that you used to see on Nikon lenses. It's very much a metal construction. Before we take a look at some images of what other people are shooting with this lens, I want to remind you that if you're considering picking up this lens or something else like it, the link in the description doesn't cost you any extra. It just helps the channel out. All right, so we are at the flicker of the Nikon 135mm AF f2DC. I'm sure we're probably going to see a lot of portraits, right? Looks like we have good color saturation. People get real creative with these specialized lenses. Look how cool and like pretty this particular shot is. Little softness from either from the edit or because it's backlit. I don't see an absurd amount of fringing. Oh, yes, I do. Okay. It's an older lens, so you're going to have fringing. Nikon has kind of eliminated fringing in like most cases. Except in the most extreme, and even in those situations, they're very well controlled. But they've only done that as recently as like the Z mount S-line lenses. I mean, really, really rich black and white on this. Looks like the reds are extremely good with this lens. The yellows are pretty good. The greens are kind of more natural. The blues are pretty natural as well, I think. I need to see a shot of a sky that doesn't look like it's super edited. Okay, I'd say the blue saturation is pretty rich, and there's a good amount of contrast in this lens as well. Oh, that's a good shot. That's a very, very cool shot. It's very like deep and moody and rich. On the Nikon D2X. Wow. That was shot in 2021 as well, so hats off to you for like rocking them older DSLRs. So all this talk about megapixels and all that, it doesn't stop you from taking an incredible, deep, rich shot like that. I need to get in and see exactly how sharp this lens is. I can tell you it's incredibly detailed. Well, no, it is really sharp, but you know, detail can come out through having excellent contrast and sharpness. And if it has both of those, then it looks insanely sharp, because the contrast, like the differentiation between like tones, like intertonal detail rather than contrast, so like micro contrast, that is what gives extra detail to things, because you have great transition between different tones, which this lens has. This is like one of my favorite shots ever. I absolutely love this. We got like a subframe. We have incredible detail. beautiful expression on this individual's face. And there's no name associated with it. And I want to shake your hand. Well, whoever shot this, this is a gorgeous shot. Make sure you go over to Flickr and you show all these photographers some love. This episode of Legends of Nikon is really no surprise. This is kind of a crazy lens. It's exactly what I love. It breaks rules, it shakes things up a little bit, and it doesn't do it recklessly. It does it good. And here's something else interesting. It's not the only one. There's a 105mm version too, but you'll have to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss whenever I cover it next time on Legends of Nikon. I'm Z-Wade, the Z-Wade, and Z-Wade Photo. Stay legendary.